Okay, so The Black Cat, 1934, directed by Edgar G. Ulmer. Never heard of you, mate. But I thought it did a damn fine job. So basically what happens is there's this young couple, they're on their honeymoon. They go to, Hungary? They meet some strange guy on the train, strangers on a train vibe there, who is played by Bela Lugosi. He kind of befriends them, and then they get a bus ride after the train to take them where they're going to, but the weather's so bad that the bus crashes. So they get taken to this weird house where Bela Lugosi's friend is. He owns the house, and he is played by Boris Karloff, the very famous Boris Karloff. And then all sorts of crazy shit starts to happen. Am I right?
That's it. I think the film is summed up by it's a lot of crazy shit. It's an interesting picture because, of course, this was the first Karloff and Lugosi team up together on screen.
Yeah.
They went on to do 8 different films together.
Yeah.
All these horror vibed films, and this is like a horror film that's pre-code
era, exactly.
And it's this isn't far after the transition from silent films to talkies. So it's right in a very unique period of time, really.
And it resembles modern filmmaking a lot more so than what predated it. Although it is also heavily influenced, of course, by what came before it. I'm thinking most notably German expressionist cinema of the 1920s, the Fritz Lang movies, those kind of things. It's obviously using a lot of those techniques, but doing its own thing with it.
Absolutely. I mean, particularly in the cinematography and the way this film sets up. The sets are vast, or at least look vast.
Yeah.
This big architecture, heavy emphasis on the angles, deep dark shadows. You can see at this point, as we know, German directors are coming into Hollywood, and their influence from the Expressionism is coming over.
Running away from the Nazis.
Exactly. And
finding a home in Hollywood, and that influence, as you so succinctly put it, has travelled with them.
It's there on screen for you to see, and you can kind of go, these films from this very specific period are what kind of influenced the next 20 years of cinema, really.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen this film before we watched it this week for the podcast, but I'd seen on Twitter last week, I'd seen a GIF from it. It was from the bit towards the end where they have the ritual, and it was just like Boris Karloff with that sort of cross in front of him and stuff. And I thought, what a striking and arresting image. I must see this film. That happened to me last year when we watched Haxan. I'd never heard of Haxan before, and I seen a couple of images from the film on social media, and straight away, that's it. Once I see something like that and I think, it sort of transfixes me, I've just got to see the film. I don't care whatever else could be the worst film ever made, but if that image grabs me like it did with The Black Cat here with Boris Karloff, I thought, I've just got to see this film. This is a crazy film, isn't it? I mean, it's Halloween weekend. We've done quite a lot of horrors and stuff before. Last year we did a Halloween special, and we covered our top horror films and horror trivia and all sorts. And this year we wanted to do something a little bit different, so we've gone back to early Hollywood examples of what they were doing back then. And I think you've nailed it by basically highlighting that European influence on this cinema.
It is, and I mean, it's interesting, of course, because the story here is based on Edgar Allan Poe. There's a lot of inspiration drawn from Aleister Crowley and kind of occultist mythology that was very a popular thing at the time.
Yeah,
that people were fascinated by. So you can see it all seeping in. And this is a bit different from kind of the films we get later on, because after this, especially in the Universal horrors, we get things like Dracula, we get things like Frankenstein. It's about monsters, it's about creatures and stuff like that, creatures from the Black Lagoon, Deep Lagoon.
Yeah.
It starts to become creature features as they became known. But here we've got something that it's not that. It's a psychological, eerie, occultist horror, which ages much better.
It's more close to something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as in, you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're trapped in someone's house and you got to get away from them because they're, you know, mad as a box of frogs.
Well, they're mad as snakes, the Yanks.
It's obviously all about the performances here as well. I mean, Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, for me, that's the main pull in this film. They're both brilliant. The younger couple, played by David Manners and Julie Bishop, are a little bit, I mean, they are youngsters, and they're a little bit cardboard cut out, to be honest. And, you know, the real meat on the bones in this one is provided by Lugosi and Karloff. And it's their sort of, their chemistry in a way, because they're at odds. They know each other from the past. Lugosi has lost his wife, and this the thing as well. There's all this talk about a war beforehand and a lot of death from the war. So, like you say, it's like grounded in a lot of reality and stuff, and it's very contemporary film. Like I say, very modern for the time. You mentioned the architecture, which is very Art Deco. You know, a lot of streamlined shapes, a lot of curves. You've got that kind of Bauhaus furniture that's made of metal and stuff. That was all, you know, it's very familiar to us still now, but at the time, that was incredibly new. And so this is not like a castle with wet stone and cobwebs and candlelight everywhere. This is all like, you know, electric light, modern architecture. And I think, you know, that's the idea as well, isn't it? The house is supposed to be new, but it's built on top of an old fort where a load of people died. But there's something about it, I think, that for me it trumps modern horror films in a lot of ways, especially when we talk about things like remakes and rehashes and same old idea. This has got a lot going for it that is missing from modern horror.
I think it's interesting because, I mean, this is, when we say a crazy film, this is a crazy film. It's necrophilia, drugs, torture, flaying, skinning alive, and all. It's got everything, you know. If you know, it's bizarre. It is irrational in places that and completely, you know, goes over hedge piece. But you're right. The biggest thing that sells it is the performances, which are in some ways over the top, but in some ways perfect for exactly the characters they're playing. It's a sinister performance. But the atmosphere they capture in this, which is more grounded in reality, as we were saying, it does. It's got something about it where you're like, oh, this is weird, you know. And you can almost imagine it, you know, yourself on a train or something, and you end up in some weird stranger's house, and like
it's just typical, isn't it? I mean, it's been used a lot ever since, you know, House on the Haunted Hill, like I said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all of those kind of things. Like, oh God, we're trapped with these weirdos. We've got to get out of here before they do something strange. But once the couple realise, you know, something's going on here, we've got to get out of here, and then the heat starts to turn up. Then you get all this revelation that he's actually a Satanist, and he's got all of these bodies down in the basement that he's preserved, and they're all in glass cases. And that's where your German expressionism comes in. Once all of that is revealed, and you've got these sort of, like you said, these chiaroscuro images. There's the dark, and then there's the figures lit up in these glass coffins almost. And he's there, and he's got his black cat, and he's just looking at him, and he's like, ooh. And you think, that is so creepy. That is just so creepy. And I the way my mind works when I'm watching these things, I'm thinking, you know, as much as we hate remakes, but if you went back to something like this and you did do like a modern take on it, you could do something
really cool.
You could do something really cool with that and really creepy.
Once we get into the basement, I must say that the size of the staircase to get down there, it was like
the spiral staircase.
It was like,
I think it kept getting longer. The first time you see it, it's just a couple of twists on it. Next time you see it, it just seems to keep going and going.
And it's good fun, isn't it? And there's a big explosion at the end, and all fun and games. It's great life, and it's interesting because it's only 60 minutes as well.
Yeah, it also really though it feels like a full film. You know, like you could watch a
They pack
3-hour
it in.
film and it doesn't feel like 3 hours, but you feel like you've had you're satisfied, you've had a good film. I felt like that with this. It was only short, but I felt like, well, it had a beginning, a middle, and end, and considering the time and everything else, it was satisfying.
They were efficient, weren't they, with the storytelling? And it was like,
and all
perfect.
that music you've got as well. You got like Tchaikovsky and Chopin and all that classic stuff. And there's the bit where Boris Karloff plays the organ, and he does what has become basically a stereotype now, the do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And I thought, there you go, that's what that's from. I thought Lugosi and Karloff were amazing. I know they're a little bit over the top, but like you said, it's not long after coming out the silent era. So a lot of these actors, they're kind of finding their way with adapting from the stage, where you have to project your voice, you have to be louder, you maybe have to overemphasize the emotions. You know, obviously it took years and years and years to condense that down to the subtleties of screen acting that we've come to know and love now. But I didn't mind it at all. I thought they were both brilliant in it. They were both invested in it. That's the good thing.
Yeah, and it's what you want. You kind of want that over the topness in any
horror film.
Especially in something like this, you kind of go, you got these two tinned up, you want them to go for it, you know, you kind of know what to expect. So without them being over the top, it wouldn't have probably worked.
No, absolutely.
Without going full throttle. So,
I mean, there was a few things in there. There was one bit where the at the end, when they're having a tussle and the henchman kind of goes flying off and he hits a wall and you see the whole wall shake, and it's supposed to be a stone wall, but it's obviously, you look at it and you think, well, that's a bit cardboard cut out.
It's just of its time, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he intends you to play a part in that ritual.
So there we go. What do you think of The Black Cat? Have you seen it? Do you like these old Universal horror films, early Hollywood stuff, black and white stuff with Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi? Does that float your boat? Let us know in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you. And there we are. Thanks very much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. The best way to support this channel is by dropping us a like and subscribing. Other ways to support us include buying me a coffee and Patreon. This video was sponsored by funkytshirts.co.uk. Check out their website for a full range of awesome t-shirt designs. You can find all the links in the description.